The expedition is to ski trek to the North Pole, and it's the longest organised expedition that you can participate in. So it's 230 kilometres, ski trekking from 88 degrees north to 90 degrees north, the North Pole. And the expedition goes through Norway. We spend a few days in Svalbard, the northern Norwegian islands, acclimatising and testing our kit. And then on the 4th of April, we will then transfer onto the sea ice and then by helicopter to the start position. And then off we go. So I'm due to depart the UK in 9 days, which is very close. Gosh, the anticipation is incredible, really. I'm hugely excited about it, but also, of course, there's lots of apprehension and nervousness about what's coming up, because I've not done a full-blown expedition like this. I've had some experience of field work in colder climates, including Antarctica and the Arctic. But yes, this is a really, really exciting time indeed. As I mentioned, I used to work for the British Antarctic Survey as a glaciologist, so I've done 2 summer field seasons in Antarctica back in the 1990s. And in a sense, that's one of the elements about why the North Pole, because once you've been to the polar regions, it seems to really get inside you. You seem very aware of every news story, every piece of information that comes out about the polar regions. So I was always acutely aware of the possibility of going to the North Pole, and it was about a couple of years ago that I read about this Australian polar guide called Eric Phillips and his company Ice Trek, who organise these expeditions. And like many things on a day-to-day basis, they come into your mind and they go again. But rather extraordinarily, about 6 months later, I caught a little bit of a programme on TV about Eric Phillips and his expeditions. So I researched it a bit more. And the key thing for me there was it made it accessible, because Ice Trek organised the expeditions. I am self-funding a place on that expedition, which takes away all the sort of risk and high cost associated with organising something yourself, which is fantastic. So it's that accessibility really of being able to do it. The North Pole obviously is a bit nearer Britain. It's more accessible than South Pole ventures. I've got a young family. I've got a busy life. So that was another element that kind of fitted really well. Actually, was to go away on this month-long expedition. And the North Pole, it's iconic. It's the top of the world. It is still, in this day and age, a challenge to get there. With all modern technology in terms of communication, it's fantastic, but still there is a lot of physical effort that needs to go into getting there. So yeah, it just seemed to fit really well. Again, 2 years ago, literally, I was one of these kind of busy work-life dads who used to sort of sit on the couch in the evening with my laptop out doing more work. And I made a decision a couple of years ago to start doing some very low-level running and to challenge myself to run 5-kilometre races and things. So that was a little bit of the start of it, but for this particular expedition, obviously I had to think more deeply about what physical qualities were needed. So back in June last year, June 2015, I joined a gym for the first time in my life. I got myself a personal trainer for the first time in my life. And I started basically doing a whole series of activities, something pretty much every day, that was around whole body training and strengthening. So whether that was running or whether that was cross training in gym or whether it was particular weight sessions to wake up muscles that I frankly didn't know that I had and hadn't really used very much. And that whole body fitness was really important because obviously, of course, you need strong legs, you need strong backs and core, but you don't want to be, pull a muscle just by hauling part of the sled across the ice in an unusual fashion. So you just need to be really awake, your whole body. And then I've been doing bits of yoga as well, so it's a real sort of range of different things. At the core of this is the challenge, of course, but that is the vehicle that enables me to raise awareness for some amazing charities and also raise an awful lot of money for them. So, and friends, family and others have come together incredibly to make that happen. So, I am, if you like, I'm a bit of the front man, but behind me are some amazing support from my wife, the kids, extended family and friends. Choosing the charities was took quite some time, a few months definitely. But I thought very carefully about it, and I decided there were three main charities. The first being Cancer Research, which of course is a huge national charity. Two things really important to me there. One, the disease itself, which took my dad way too early. It took a neighbouring school dad last year at the age of 51. And I still know other people, of course, that are battling with that disease. And I think it's one of those things that everybody knows somebody that is battling with or has suffered loss from that condition. So a hugely important and connected charity to me. The other half of Cancer Research, of course, is it's all about research, and it's science-based, and it's science delivering for humanity and society. And as a scientist myself, I love to see science in action. I've been to their research labs in Cambridge, which are just incredible. They have some of the top scientists from all over the world working in those facilities, looking at new treatments, new diagnosis methods. So really, really inspiring. So that's the sort of primary national charity. The next two are more locally based. So again, a core tenet of what I'm achieving, my mission, is about giving back to the local community that I've lived in for 20 years in St Albans. The first of those is Rennie Grove Hospice Care, who of course pick up the pieces, partly connected to cancer, but also other life-limiting diseases. And they're represented by Grove House within St Albans, who are an extraordinary 24-hour hospice care facility. So they really are there every hour of every day of the year when people need them. And it's not just the individuals, of course, who are going through the trauma and the stress of battling a disease or managing it. It's their family, it's their friends, it's their extended group. Really fundamentally important service that's provided by all hospices across this country. And I'm helping in a very small way to raise awareness that the fact that they are almost entirely charity funded. So they get a tiny little bit of money from the NHS, but Grove House alone has to raise 6.7 million quid a year to keep going. And with the current pressures on the NHS, the hospice system is being asked to do more and more as well within that mechanism. So a really important high-profile local charity. My third charity is a local one as well, a little hidden gem really in St Albans called Earthworks St Albans. And they run a 4-acre allotment where they work with 60 trainees, and the trainees all have learning disabilities or have suffered brain injuries through car accidents. And they are engaged largely in horticulture, so growing fruit and veg, producing amazing fruit and veg actually that goes on sale and helps support their activities. But for me, the key thing that site provides is a warmth, a hospitality, a social environment for all those individuals, the trainees, but also the volunteers who get just as much from it as the trainees, to socialise, to build self-confidence and to share and experience together. It's an absolutely delightful place to visit. So I'm really pleased to support them because I think probably about 50% of folk I meet in St Albans haven't even heard of them. And they do absolutely run on a shoestring. So it's been great to be able to support them with fundraising. So they're the three main charities. And then I'm also raising a little bit of money for a fourth trust, which is the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust. And again, that's very important to me, partly because of my previous role with the British Antarctic Survey, but also about the value to this day of the stories of polar exploration, that great heroic age of polar exploration with Scott and Shackleton and Amundsen and Fridtjof Nansen and others. Those stories are still inspiring school children today and others. They inspired me when I was a kid. They inspired the generations in the 1920s when these expeditions were happening. So part of what the Antarctic Heritage Trust do is they look after these most amazing little explorer huts that are in Antarctica that still have many original artefacts inside them. If those buildings were in the UK, they'd be Grade 1 listed, they'd be blue plaqued wall to wall, they would be one of the most precious buildings in the country. But because they're not, they're in Antarctica, which doesn't belong to anybody, the Heritage Trusts pick up that responsibility of looking after them, ensuring the artefacts are preserved. So that's one of their roles. And this second role is this educational role within schools, universities and the wider community about polar exploration and the amazing stories of expeditions from the past. At the moment I have raised nearly £37,000 for charity, which is just fantastic. When I originally set my target back in September last year, I set it at 30,000. So it's fantastic that I've smashed that target, and I've had to raise it to 45,000 now. So it's moving along brilliantly. And of course the great thing about this is, and I hadn't really appreciated this, that money is already working for all those charities. It's already been fed out. So, for example, Earthworks, they've now installed a solar light system for their car park and their site because they're completely off-grid, which means that they can now operate a bit more efficiently when the light goes in the evenings, in the winter and things. So they're already starting to make really positive changes in terms of what they can do. So yeah, the fundraising has been incredible, and it's ranged right from sort of company sponsorship of several £1,000s from one company, which is fantastic, right the way down to, an entry from a school child into the flag design competition where they donated £1 to enter that competition. And whether it's £1,000 or £1, it's all going to charity. And that was really, really important for me right from the beginning to have that clarity of message. So a whole range of things have brought together that. We've had some amazing community events that have fundraised. Lots of companies have really stepped up and been really creative around the polar theme and how they can raise funds for these charities, which has been fantastic. The response has been amazing, and I do believe that within all of us there is this spirit to do these little things, to contribute, to help, to be human, really. And in many respects it's finding the right sort of outlet or the right way to show that. The responses have been quite incredible. I have been surprised, but maybe I should have been, thought about humanity more generously and not been that surprised. People have been fantastic, yeah. So I think as you get older, you do quite literally become wiser. You have more experiences. You value things in slightly different ways. When you're a young kid starting off on your career, you want to have fun, you want to get a bit of money so that you can get a few things together. When I'm, where I am now, absolutely, I see the value in what I call social fabric, the fact that people can interact, talk to each other, communicate. There's sorts of things that happened quite readily a long time ago, but perhaps have started to decline a bit because of whatever factors. We're too busy, we're too fearful, there's too many uncertainties that people don't engage. So I think, there's an absolute desire within everybody to do those sorts of good things. And I think certainly when you get older, you see, wow, it's such value. They're the sorts of things that you will remember are those events where people have benefited from some action that you can do. Because we all have talents, we all have skills within our jobs, but we all have this inherent ability to do other things as well. And it doesn't have to be going to the North Pole, of course. It's any degree of adventure, any degree of voluntary work that you can do. They're all things that will improve somebody's life. What am I most looking forward to? Well, I think it's only 9 days until I fly to Norway. I do feel I'm ready. The thing I'm really looking forward to is getting started, but getting past that first sort of couple of days of the expedition, when at that point, after a couple of days, you become quite a well-oiled team. Everything runs smoothly, we all know our roles, and we're kind of moving forward and making good progress. So I'm really looking forward to that point. Obviously getting started is going to be fantastic. I have obviously talked about this expedition to lots of people over many months, so really excited to get going. And then, of course, I guess this is the kind of obvious, I'm really looking forward to doing it as well, to being on the North Pole, on the top of the world. And I'm particularly looking forward to unfurling the flag from the school competition. We had our winner announced over the weekend. A little 6-year-old girl has done this amazing design that was selected as the winner. So that's just going to be such a joyous moment, unfurling that, getting a photograph of that at the North Pole. I've done quite a lot of talks and presentations in schools to all sorts of different age groups, and I've really enjoyed that, because it's about partly connecting to things that they might be doing within their syllabus, but also thinking a bit more about issues such as global warming and the changes that are happening in the Arctic, which are very real. But yes, engaging people, inspiring people. One of the things, I get called an explorer quite a bit, which I'm really uncomfortable with, to be honest. This ability, or I'm not a special person. There's an ability within everybody to step up and do something, to challenge themselves a bit. So I tell the kids, when I was their age, I think I was about 9, sitting in an audience, listening to a visitor talking about an expedition to Borneo and all the amazing wildlife there. And hearing those stories gets you thinking. It gets you looking at books or on the internet, thinking about what's out there. So, I just encourage them to remain curious and to find out things about that they're really interested in. It is extraordinary. It's going to be a great moment, though. A great moment. We're navigating by GPS effectively to the geographic North Pole. So that's when it all goes to zeros when you get there on your GPS. Hopefully it won't be a high wind day. It's going to be a nice, beautiful, sunny, calm day. But yes, we'll unfurl the flags. We'll have a little celebratory tot of whiskey. It's going to be an extraordinary moment. I'm imagining it will be quite emotional as well, because the people that are part of the expedition are all doing it for very different reasons and different causes. And it's been such a huge part of my life and my family's life and my friends' life for so long now. So unfurling flags, celebrating. Hopefully, with a bit of luck, we'll get to camp there as well, which would be great if we could do an overnight at the North Pole. And then when we're ready, a helicopter comes and picks us up and takes us back to the real world. 2 parallel journeys there. Physical preparation for clearly a physical challenge, but equally equally the amount of effort that's gone in around the community, the engagement side of things. I have, as I said, I've lived in St Albans for 20 years. I have now met more people in the last 6 to 8 months than I've ever met in the last 20 years. And I think that's not untypical, but it shows, again, it shows one of these little things that everybody can unlock in a way. When you're living your life in a place, you tend to get, well, I got a bit sort of two-dimensional. Not that that's a bad thing, you know, you have your work, you have your friends, you have your kids and the schools and those social dimensions. But there's all those other ones through the businesses, the charities, and the other individuals who are doing amazing things within the community. So, yeah, that's really opened a lot of doors in this process, but it's really opened my eyes to what power that has, actually. I get asked, well, what will you do when you get back? That's quite a frequent question that's asked, and I think people expect me to say, well, I'll then go to the South Pole, or I'll climb Mount Everest, or something like that. I'm not sure about all that, about what challenge comes next, but the thing I'm absolutely certain about is the learning and understanding I now have of the community I live in, the people that are there, and the connections that I've made. So I'm really, really keen to continue making more connections between charities and businesses and individuals in any way I can. That has been hugely rewarding, and they're relationships that will last as well. So I'm certainly going to be ambassadors for those charities and help them raise profile within our community. I'll go back to the schools, I'll do updates for them to continue to maintain that engagement within the schools. And you never know, one day I might do some other challenge to a cold place, or maybe a warm place.